Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I am here with the coach, John Brent.
Man, and I'm here with the vet, Mr. N. Griffin, and it's been a while. I'm glad we're back together.
Yes, it has been a while. We're at the Jump Talk.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
So we're at the Jump Talk.
Yes, the Jump Talk. I'm still learning that. That means that we're at the Bachman Homestead, and when we're at the Griffin Homestead, it's called the
Talk.
All right.
Yeah.
There we
The
go.
Jump Talk is the Ford post that we're ready to pull all the element in and go attack the enemy and go slice their throats and do all that good stuff.
So like a Kandahar.
Yeah, and well, in Afghanistan, the higher headquarters is in Kabul, and in Kandahar and Bagram would be in the Jump Talk. What it should have been in Bagram to begin with is the regular talk. But anyway, that's another story. And if you'd asked Joe Biden, he claims the Jump Talk is right outside the White House. But anyway, that's another story.
All I want to know is who in the heck's hands he's been trying to shake lately.
We don't know. We don't know, and I don't think anybody else knows either.
Like him and the Easter Bunny probably, he needs the Easter Bunny around a whole lot more, I think.
Yeah. So we got to talk about something serious here.
Yes.
We were just joking about this. This is how serious it is we have to talk about Mr. Elon Musk and the possible buyout of Twitter.
Yeah, it's become crazy. It's like this guy has such a great reputation between for so many years by the left and the right as this innovator. He created this car. He created this the SpaceX. He moved to he's moving things to Austin, Texas, to get some more jobs in Texas. So everybody loves the guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the talk of him purchasing what I want to call left-wing media outlet Twitter, because they can kick whoever off they want to.
Exactly.
Then it has become the enemy again. He's the enemy now.
They made him a Donald Trump because
Before
Donald Trump ran for president, everybody in the left wanted their
I didn't
picture
think about
taken
that
with
way,
him.
but you're right, because
They wanted the hugs. They had to have their daughters with him. They had to have everything. Not Donald Trump, not in the way of Epstein, how they panned their daughters out to him. But they wanted their family seen with Donald Trump. They wanted him in movies. Hillary wanted him to come all the time. All these things like that, to come over and visit and take pictures with Chelsea and all this other stuff. And then he runs for president, then it's against what they think, and now he has become Satan.
Correct.
And this is what happened with Elon Musk, is because the Twitter, let's face the fact, what is the Twitter? The Twitter is the entity that can censor you as much as it wants, and it does that for political advantage. That's what we saw in the last election, that it censored its sitting president when thousands of other people have Twitter accounts that have done far worse, and they're like, it's okay. You're not running against our guy. It's okay. And then when their guy is up there to be run against, well, let's don't let the laptop stuff get out. We have to shut that down. Yeah. Twitter did that. There's no bones about it. And then, Coach, I'm going to say this. Hold on, because I write a paper that's about to end on this, and let me get the sanctimonious. Well, the vet, the First Amendment is only about the government. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Unless it's not.
Unless it suits your party,
Correct.
Then the First Amendment's about everything. And then when it doesn't suit your party, it doesn't. But in America, there is the law of the First Amendment. But I never even said that. I'm saying I think we should have as much freedom of speech as possible.
Well, from day one of this thing, the freedom of speech for me, the freedom of expression, freedom of the press, all is the biggest thing to me. That's why it's number one on the Bill of Rights. That's why you have the 1787 Constitution, which is all of us rights together, the community of rights for all of us. And then 4 years later, they added the Bill of Rights for individual rights. And the very first individual right is freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to protest and assemble. And over the last couple of years, you have seen the left use the First Amendment when they need it. Well, no, they can't protest. No, they can't assemble when they're upset. And yes, they can say things that they want to say. Then you also see the left use that, well, it's the government. Congress shall make no law.
It only applies to the government now. I'm sorry, I just ran my mouth and wanted to kill a lot of people, but it only applies to the government. I didn't mean that,
Yeah, using words like insurrection and protest and rioting and it's just a play on words, but it's taking that out of one pocket to another. But back to Elon Musk, you have to think, but this gentleman is not an American.
No, he's not.
He should be the quintessential.
Wait, let me say what he calls himself.
Yeah.
He's an African American. That's
Yes.
what he calls himself.
Now he is an African American.
He is an
Where was he
African
born?
American. People don't like that,
Right.
but he calls himself an African American.
But he is the quintessential American dream that the
Yeah.
left talks about. Bring people over, come here, come to America. Well, first and foremost, he came here and became an innovator. He is so daggum intelligent. If you've ever watched any of his interviews, especially on Rogan or something where it's just a flowing, which people don't want to call Rogan an interview, but a dialogue.
Yeah.
He is so intelligent that you can just see the wheels spinning. And, you know, I've always looked at him as someone like an Edison or a Tesla or a Bell or a Ford or something like that. And I think the left did too until he decided to start speaking out about a year and a half ago.
Until Elizabeth Warren tried to hit him up and say he don't pay any taxes in his whole life.
Yeah.
And he goes, check this out, just this year I'll pay more taxes than just about everybody in America combined.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there at you, that's who I am, you know. And then I got some friends that say, well, he didn't pay taxes the year before. I'm just throwing it out there. If he pays taxes more than anybody combined, I think we all need to shut up. Just throwing it out there.
Well,
you know?
what he has done here is he's kind of called the bluff.
Yes, he has.
He says, look.
He don't
okay,
back down.
Right. He's not going to back down, but he says, okay, I'm going to purchase this location, Twitter. And the reason for it is because speech and freedom of speech, which he loves so much as a transplant American,
Yeah.
is that this should be an open forum.
Yes.
And whatever happened to the notion of us hearing something and going, that's crazy, I don't believe
Yeah.
it. Or I listen to go, I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe I'll do a little research. But what we have done is we have attached certain channels and certain outlets and certain places that you can speak and go, that's what we'll believe, and we can't believe based on the ideology of party. So the left being an MSNBC type thing, well, if MSNBC says it, it has to be true if you're a leftist.
Yeah,
And if you're on the right, if Fox says it, it has to be true.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, if you look at it, well, if Fox says it, if you're leftist, it's propaganda and conspiratory, and vice versa to the MSNBC if you're. So what he has done, I believe, is he said, look, let's just call the bluff on the whole thing and let the American people or the world people, when you hear something, decide if it's true or not on their own. But you can't have people going, let's stop this Hunter Biden laptop story because we think it's false or it would hurt our candidacy
or hurt our election.
Or hurt our election.
It'll hurt our election.
But let's put this story over here about Trump, Russian collusion as much as possible. And also,
that's been proven false. So.
Yeah, and let's shut down Trump because we don't want to hear him because he possibly could cause a riot like, you know, maybe Black Lives Matter did. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So what we have is we actually have a businessman that wants to expand his business and buy a new business. Something that we've done in America for years. And what we've had is America, I'm going to call you what we are, little Miss Kravitz, who's jealous because they're not doing this shit. And because the news told you that it's got to be bad because you don't know why it's bad. I mean, tell me why it's bad for him to buy Twitter. Somebody, tell me why it's bad for him to buy Twitter. I want to hear it because I've yet to hear it.
Well,
I'm listening to Joey Bayer say, oh, how dare he? Well, how dare he what? Why? What? Why? Can you tell me why? What is bad about him doing this?
Let me at least throw what the other side would say that you asked the question. I'm not saying it's truth or not. I'm just saying this is their way of thinking is if we have this platform that we can regulate speech by saying this is true and this is not true, then you can push an ideology on a generation of people around the world. But if you can't control it and then it's out there for the people to control, then the people then could get smart enough by researching themselves, and that could change and swing elections. Now, the only thing that I thought about this as an example that you can kind of go just kind of close to is for 1400 years, the Catholic Church did not really put out the Bible. Okay? Mm-hmm. It was there. If you want to know about it, go to Catholic Church around the world. We'll tell you what's in the Bible. Martin Luther comes around 500 years ago, translate the Bible into German so people could actually start reading it, which started the Protestant Reformation, which we all now can read the Bible and go, wait a minute, what they were saying was not true. This is what the Bible says. So in a way, it's kind of like you do what I tell you to do, and you listen to what I tell you what's going on in the world.
Shut up and color.
Now, here goes the Reformation of open information now oh my God, that's such a bad thing. Well, you sound like a bunch of Catholics when you're doing that.
So, Coach, I'll say this, and I'm not here to dwell on this, but this is very relevant. The Hunter Biden laptop thing, right there. It didn't just fade away. It was taken completely off the internet on majority of news media and social media. The Twitter itself did that.
Yeah.
You know, so you couldn't go back and go look for the Bible to go find out your real answer. You couldn't do your research because they evaporated. They did let me think of his name. They did a damn Joseph Stalin is what they did. Now here goes my people on one side. It's going to go, well, Vet, that wasn't the government. It was only the media. Well, who controls the media was one party. I hate to say that because it was all on one party's side. And that's not being a conspiracy theory. But that's one point of it. The second point of it is our laws were built to control a government who has the vast amount of power over you. Okay? But we have allowed certain media outlets to have so much power that they control the narrative like they're the government. So do the restrictions that we have upon these social media outlets, not restrictions, these government protections, should they be taken away? Or as Elon Musk suggests, I'm just going to let them have free speech. So it goes back to, unless you want to control what people think, why would you be mad at a man who would allow a venue to have free speech?
Well, you have to think about this. A lot of people, people have asked me, who do you think the most important people in the government in the 21st century is? And I give them this answer, and they look at me, every single one looks at me crazy, the press secretary. Because the press secretary every single day comes out and answers questions, but there's a binder and a folder in front of them. And there's the answers that the government, the people that are running the government, that are winning the elections, that are in charge at this time, says, this is what we want the answer to be. Yes. Doesn't have to be fact, doesn't have to be fiction, doesn't have to be anything. This is the answer we're going with. So when you say that the media is not controlled by the government, in reality, what comes out of the government to the media today is controlled unless you actually have a breaking Washington Post story about Watergate, or you have somebody that gets something that goes down deep, because nowadays we don't really have that anymore because they're controlling us more and more with what comes out. And the second part of this, you know how they're controlling us more and more, is anybody that comes out with information that they don't like, they call them a whistleblower, or they call them Edward Snowden, or they call them whatever they are when they're actually getting out things. And then they call the conspiracy theories of people going, oh, well, you just believe anything. It just depends on who's in power. And whoever's in power that controls that media directive is actually controlling thoughts. So without a Twitter that's open, that's what I'm getting to, or without a Facebook that's open, that anybody can post whatever they want to, conspiratory or not, what you're doing is you are controlling through the government. That's who's starting it, through the people and through media outlets.
I can see what you're saying. I see it just a little bit different, Coach. I'm going to hit on that. But think about what the White House press secretary is. It's a taxpayer-funded liar.
Sure.
That is all it is. We are funding some substantial amount of money, 6 figures, for that liar to lie. Yeah. And that's what we're doing, is to sell us a line of shit. Now, I will venture to say, and I'm going to give an example. We're going to talk another podcast about it here soon. But I'm going to give another example, is the media itself is the most powerful entity. Because let's just take a look at the mask for Borden Airlines, got overturned by a federal judge. And we'll go into that later on another one. But they got overturned by a federal judge. When a federal judge overturned President Trump's thing, media came out and said how sorry was his ideas and policies.
Exactly.
Now, the mask has been overturned because they don't fit the science. Let's be quite honest.
It's a Trump judge.
And it's been done. Now the media has come out and, well, the White House, we've got to find a way to slap masks back on everybody. Now that we've been to ball games and everything else without them, we've got to find a way, because that goes against what the White House stands for, which is our party. We have to find a way to can we staple those fucking masks on people? Can we? That's what we're asking for. Yeah. Can we permanently ink that thing into them so we can support our party? That's what it's come down to, is the media has perpetuated that. You go watch The View. The View is not, it's an opinion piece. But it is driven by what the media, the major three, tell them, MSNBC, CNN, and all of them, what they tell them, and they feed right off of it because they all preach the same thing together, and they're like, yeah, we should all wear a mask. I would never think about riding the airlines again without a mask. Like, really? Do you not have a life? I'm like, seriously?
I mean, the politics have gotten to be so big that the division that we hear about is really true.
Yeah.
And it's funny when people say, well, maybe we should just have two countries. But that's what we're doing. We actually have two different countries, ideologies of about half of the country trying to live together in a tent and trying not to tear this tent to pieces. And at the same time, whoever wins the election that runs that tent is changing the front of that tent a little bit every 4 years. But in reality, what you have is you have a whole bunch of people under a roof of a tent, or what you want to call it, the United States of America, that are doing their best to try to get along, even though they believe totally different things. So it's a really a difficult time in our country's history, because what is the solution? If somebody said, give us a solution to bring both these parties together, and I've talked about it, we've talked about it, there is no compromise anymore because it's not supposed to be, but there is no compromise because there can't be a compromise. How do you compromise on abortion or immigration and things like that when your ideologies are so widespread? And so even with Elon Musk, how do you take Elon Musk's idea that I want to have more freedom of speech, which sounds great. We all want more freedoms. But to one side or the other, depending on what that information is going to say, is how they're going to align with, do they want him to have it or not? If he was a very liberal, I mean super liberal, and he wanted to buy Twitter, there would be nobody on the left saying a thing, and the people on the right would be disappointed about it and pissed off about it. John Hannity and Tucker Carlson would be saying that he is the next ABCD. I don't believe that if it was the other way around, that the Republicans would act any different than the Democrats are acting now about it.
I agree with that. But my deal is and what you talked a lot about is a lot of people putting party above country.
Absolutely.
And we've gone down this lane too many times as we put party above country. And you've heard me say this many times. There's about 1,000 things I can think of more highly than any party that resides in the United States of America. Because I am a conservative. I'm not tied to a party. There's some things on the liberal side I agree with some of that, and there's some things on the conservative side I agree with. But I'm not tying myself to be a Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, or Bernie Sanders Party or anything else. I just don't. I don't agree with that because that puts the party above people or the country or whatever, and that's hogwash. Because no party went to war. Yeah. No party's defended our country. They'll claim they have, okay, and they'll claim they've done great things, but it's a lot of bickery. But moving along, back to Elon Musk, what is wrong with any businessman, whether they're left-leaning or they're right-leaning, whatever it may be, purchasing a business and saying, I just want my business to have a platform of freedom of speech? It kills your narrative that my naysayers about, well, the First Amendment's only about the government. He's stepping in and saying he wants it to be about his business. So there. So what's wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you also have to look at this. If someone has a business that they want to sell, this is not one they're just publicly saying, I want to sell this business, somebody give me the highest offer. He's just coming in saying, hey, I'd like to purchase this for this much of a share of stock. But the person that's selling a business, the people that own the business, don't have to sell it to anybody. So they don't have to sell me a truck down at the Ford dealership if they don't want to. Usually says on the door, we refuse the right to, or we hold the right to refuse business to anyone. So if they decide that they don't want to sell it to him, and if it's based on politics, which is based on the money amount of the stock, which is based on they don't get along or they don't like each other, there's not much that Elon Musk can do. He can't sue them to make them sell.
He can't. The shareholders can.
Absolutely.
That's one. And then two, what I want to talk about this is, it's 2009 and it's 2009 or 2013. I forgot which one it is. It's 2013. 2013 and 2019 is the only time the stock has been above the asking price that he is asking to sell it right now. Mm-hmm. So just think about that. So 2 times in a decade that it's been up above the price that he's willing to purchase the business, which is roughly more than $10 a share that it is right now. Yeah. So it is a lucrative offer that he's throwing. He's not throwing junk change out there.
It is lucrative, but that's kind of like this. Think about my property that I have here. I absolutely love my home. We just built our home a year and a half ago. I know about what it's worth. It's actually gone through the roof what they say it's worth. And if somebody were to walk up here and say, okay, your property's worth $750,000, but I want to give you $1 million for it. And I go, you know what? This is my forever home. I'm not selling it.
I don't have,
to sell it, even though it's a ridiculous offer. But what I don't want to hear is these people saying, well, we will sell it to someone. We just don't want to sell it to him.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
And because of his ideology or because of his politics or what we think he's going to do with it, I'm going to tell you right now, business people that are wealthy, that buy businesses, that are falling down businesses or that are making tons of money, they have an idea what they want to do with that business. And once you buy that business, you can close it down tomorrow and fire everybody you want, or you can create it and make it a go-kart park.
Yep.
It's yours. So to tell someone they can't buy it for a political reason, you can do it. It makes them look terrible. And you're all right. The shareholders can get pissed off, but they're not pissed off enough right now because they could publicly say, we want this sold or we're going to sue the head guy.
I agree with that. So, but if Twitter comes out and says, oh, we don't want him to buy it, we want somebody else, and they come up and sell it for what the actual share price is, which is a lot less, and they sell it for that, let me ask, what is the difference than that, to be honest, than in the 50s?
Who's the most liberal person you can think about that's a billionaire?
Isn't it not
Warren Buffett, maybe?
Bezos?
Jeff Bezos?
But let me just say this.
Yeah.
Is that not any different than in the 50s when we go, we're not selling you the house because your skin color is just a little bit darker than the community we live in. We need to sell a house to some people that look like us. Is that not any different, to be honest?
It is a little different. I understand what you're saying. Because if you start choosing and picking,
we're starting to pick and choose.
Well, that's because we're playing identity politics in the 21st century. But you have to think that the voluntary exchange of a good in economics is this person here has something that they want to sell, and this person here has an amount of money they want to give them for that product.
Yeah.
If they agree that there's a certain price point and they voluntarily exchange that, that's a free market exchange. If this person wants to buy it and this person doesn't want to sell it, you can't make that person do it. Just like if this one wants to sell it and there's no buyer, even if he keeps dropping the price and no one wants to sell it, nobody's going to buy it. But in this case, I believe, Bet, what's going on is they would sell this in a minute, in my estimation, for
at
that
$43 a share instead of the 50s.
If it was Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, put the name out there, that's a liberal, that would continue to allow them to run Twitter the way that it's being run.
But the reason why they're not selling is because the board of trustees is afraid that Joey Behar will take them off their Christmas card list because that they will sell it to them. That's the whole bottom line. I mean, let's be honest about it.
So,
is they're not going to get the freaking darn fruitcake.
I'm an Elon Musk fan. I love his story.
Yeah.
I love that when someone when someone says that something can't be done, he doesn't listen to that. He figures out a way to get it done. There's been 2 or 3 different times where he's been at a point where he could lose almost everything, and he didn't. And of course, people say, well, this, that, and the other. But I tell you right now, we need more Elon Musk in this world. Just like we needed at the time, we needed Bill Gates, we needed Jeff Bezos, we needed Steve Jobs at that time. Now we need this guy here. And if he can push, even not with this platform, maybe this doesn't work out with Twitter, but just the messaging of we need more freedom of speech in this world. Even if you don't like it, or you might call it this or that, but you need more of it. The more you have, the better. The less you have, the more totalitarian everything gets, and it gets crazier.
He's an innovator. And whether you like him or not, he's not afraid to stand up for himself.
No. And he's an American. He's actually an American success story, and he's not even a real American.
No.
Well, what more American would the 21st century liberal want to be than a transplant here become successful just like the old patriarchal white guy from the South in the 1800s that became wealthy? Here he is. Should be there. They should have him up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Why not?
So, somebody tell me why Elon Musk shouldn't buy the business. Now, if the business don't want to sell it, that's fine. But why shouldn't he? What's the problem? We want to hear it. I want to hear that. So, anyway.
Go, Elon, go.
So, I think it's time for us to get it out of here. So, from the coach
to the vet,
it's time to stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.